Good evening, dear friends. Welcome to the evening of mindfulness by Ahimsa Trust. Today is the full moon day, and it's a very special day, and I'll come to that in a moment, why it's so special today. And we'll start with a short meditation practice, and then be sharing about the 14 mindfulness trainings, which I should also share about. And then we'll do something like a recitation of the 14 trainings. It's one of the best ways of explaining what the trainings will be about. And then we'll have a session of walking meditation led by Tina, and a sharing by Indira on her experience with the first of the 14 trainings. And then maybe if I have time, I'll share a little bit about the charter of the 14 trainings of the Order of Interbeing. I'll give a short guided practice in the beginning just to settle us in and to arrive in preparation for being with each other for this opportunity to practice together in this short evening of mindfulness. And my name is Shantam, and I'm a volunteer facilitator of Ahimsa Trust. We'll start with 3 sounds of the bell. The bell is like the voice of the Buddha calling us back to our true home, which is the here and now. So please listen attentively to the bell and let the sound penetrate into your consciousness and just help you arrive, just focusing on the sound. And then we'll move to the breath after that. So, dear friends, please be aware of the position of your body. Find a stable and comfortable posture. If you're sitting on a chair, you can put your feet flat on the ground. If you're sitting on a cushion, you can fold your legs under you. Just forming a stable posture. And at some point, if you feel a little uncomfortable with the posture, you can be aware of the discomfort. And then if you feel necessary, you can move to make yourself more comfortable. But just being aware that you're moving till you find another position that you feel more comfortable with. So you can adjust your body left to right, forward, backwards. Just find that sense of equilibrium in your body and how you're sitting. And just feeling a sense of arrival, of groundedness in this place. And now aware of your spine. Keeps your back upright. Just aware of the gentle curvature of the spine as it goes up the back. Elongating it a little bit if you need to. As the spine reaches into the neck, into the head. Not overstretching it, not getting uncomfortable or tight. And then just being aware of the muscles in your face. Sometimes we hold a lot of tension in our face, even in around our eyes. Just offer yourself a gentle half smile that relaxes the muscles in your face. Offers us a sense of well-being. And then relaxing the muscles in the neck, the shoulders, the arms, the hands, just being aware of the position of our hands, whether in our lap, on our knees, on our thighs. Aware of our hips, gently pushing them back sometimes so you get a more upright posture. Your thighs, your lower leg, your feet. And aware of the muscles in the back, the chest, and our abdomen. Just feeling a softness in our abdomen. Feeling that gentle rise and fall, like the waves on the sea. Just the ebb and flow with each in-breath and each out-breath. Just feeling that sense of gratitude for this breath of life. Each in-breath, each out-breath. Offering us the most precious of all things, life in this very moment. And enjoying the breath, noticing its quality. Is it a long breath? Is it a short breath? Is it a deep breath? Is it a slow breath? And again, using the breath to calm our whole body, from the top of our head to our toes. Breathing in, I calm my body. Breathing out, I feel at ease. Relaxing the body. And releasing all our tensions, our projects, our concerns. Just letting go. Just focusing our mind on our breath and letting go of all extraneous thinking. Just being present with oneself and enjoying this moment. Just enjoying this gift of life. So, dear friends, just if you feel like you can massage your face or just massage your legs, just feeling a sense of comfort and ease and gratitude to our body, to our eyes, to our ears. So today, actually, as I mentioned, is a full moon day. And it's quite special because it was today, 55 years ago in 1966, when Thich Nhat Hanh actually founded what we now know as the Order of Interbeing, or he called it the Tipian Order at the time. And this is, at that time, he developed not just the Order of Interbeing, but he also developed a charter around what this order was. And of course, this day is important in the Buddhist context. It was the day the Buddha announced his own Mahaparinirvan. 3 months from today, he would be passing away. And so I don't know why Thai chose this day, but it's an important day. In the Buddhist tradition, full moons are considered quite auspicious. But we thought that today I'll share a little bit about those 14 trainings and also what the Order of Interbeing was and how it came about, and maybe the charter, and then we can hear from others their own experience. But I thought that we would do share the 14 a little bit like a contemplation. So of course, this 14 originally came, you have to always understand where the context of something is. And of course, it came out of the middle of the American-Vietnam War. There were bombs falling all over Vietnam. And Thich Nhat Hanh famously said, if you, as a monk, we can't just be meditating and offering incense in the temple, we have to be out helping people. And that's how this whole understanding and development of what we know as engaged Buddhism developed, and what sometimes people call spirituality in action. And he'd set up an organization a little earlier called this the School for Youth, a School of Youth for Social Service. And these were young people who were going out in the middle of the war, trying to not be aligned with one side or the other, but really helping people who were suffering from the horrors of the war. And this was, in a way, a crux of what this Tibetan order was. It was not about taking sides. It is about non-attachment to views, but really developing one's bodhisattva ideal of helping others, developing compassion to help others in the midst of deep, deep suffering. And in 1966, as I said, this full moon in February, 6 people were ordained. The first 6 people who became what we now known as the 6 seeders and the 6 founders of the Order of Interbeing. 3 were women, 3 were men. The men were actually lay people. Well, they're all lay people, but the women had sort of taken a vow of celibacy. So they were inclined towards a more monastic path. One of them is Sister Chung Kong, who's stayed with Thai right throughout. One young lady was Sister Chi Mai. She actually self-immolated herself as an act of peace and protest in the Vietnam War. So it is a group of very idealistic young people between the age of about 22 and 32. And soon after that, Thai was exiled from Vietnam. And so in a way, that idea didn't really develop. But the next person who became a member of the order was 1981, so quite a long time later. And then as I came to contact with Thai in 87, soon after that, I was ordained myself in 92, and we had the first International Council in 1992. And then the second council was in 1996, called Being Wonderfully Together. And that was in Plum Village, where there were probably more than 100 people who'd become part of that order from different countries, different continents, of course, Asia and Europe and America and also Australia. And now there are probably about 3,000 ordained members of the Order of Interbeing all around the world. And what the 14 trainings were will become clear to us as I read them. They're basically a sort of blend of a Buddhist morality and a handling socially or contemporary social concerns. And you can understand that, as I was saying, that it developed in the middle of the war, and it was a war of isms. It was communism and all these other things were going on, and so capitalism. And so the idea that we don't become an ismist. And that's interesting when you hear the 14 trainings. The first 3 are very much based on the rejection of any sort of fanaticism and political or religious self-righteousness. And it's always good to remember that Buddhism is about overcoming suffering. It's not trying to tell us some truth about or explain some philosophical reality of how the earth came to be, whether there's a heaven, there's a God. It's very much about how to live in peace, how to bring peace into one's own life, into one's own family, and of course, in the wider community. And we do that by training ourselves in mindfulness, in a deep understanding of compassion. And I think Thich Nhat Hanh realized that you need living communities to help doing that. And so that's how he had set up small communities in Vietnam. And that's how the whole idea of Plum Village, which is originally in France, started. And then there were other plum villages in other countries. And in fact, our aspiration is to do exactly that in Dehradun. That's what we're trying to set up as Jamun village in Dehradun, around this aspiration which he had with the School for Youth for Social Service of how to be engaged with using spirituality in action. So I'll pause there because what I want to share was the 14 trainings read in a way which can be offered as a contemplation. So the 14 trainings are the very order, the essence of the order of interbeing, which was set up, as I said, 55 years ago. And we say it's like the torch lighting our path, the boat carrying us, the teacher guiding us. And they allow us to touch the nature of interbeing, which is key in this, and in everything that is. And to see that our happiness is not separate from the happiness of others. And to realize that interbeing is not a theory, but it's a reality that can be directly experienced by each of us at any moment of our daily lives. So the 14 mindfulness trainings help us cultivate that concentration and insight, which frees us from that fear and that illusion of a separate self. That's the deep understanding of the Buddha, which he got under the tree when he had this realization of interbeing, dependent origination. So as I read the 14 trainings, please listen to each mindfulness training with a sort of serene mind. And the mindfulness training serves as a sort of clear mirror in which to look at ourselves. So I might ask a question at the end, do you feel you practice this? So you can say yes silently in your mind or whatever, every time you feel that you made an effort to study or practice or observe the mindfulness training read. Of course, most of us have not taken this training. There are only 8 of us in India who've taken this training. But I think that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that you have officially, formally taken it. It's a practice to reflect on how we're doing with our own lives. So I will invite the bell again, and then I'll read one after the others 14. And we can treat this as a contemplation meditation for the next 20 minutes or so, as long as it takes to finish that. Yeah. The first mindfulness training, openness. Aware of the suffering created by fanaticism and intolerance, we're determined not to be idolatrous about or bound to any doctrine, theory, or ideology, even Buddhist ones. We are committed to seeing Buddhist teachings as a guiding means that help us learn to look more deeply and develop understanding and compassion. They are not doctrines to fight, kill, or die for. We understand that fanaticism in its many forms is the result of perceiving things in a dualistic or discriminative manner. We will train ourselves to look at everything with openness and insight, and the insight of interbeing, in order to transform dogmatism and violence in ourselves and in the world. This is the first of the 14 mindfulness trainings of the Order of Interbeing. Have you made an effort to study, practice, and observe it during the past month? The second mindfulness training, non-attachment to views, aware of the suffering created by attachment to views and wrong perceptions. We are determined to avoid being narrow-minded and bound to present views. We are committed to learning and practicing non-attachment to views and being open to others' experiences and insights in order to benefit from the collective wisdom. We are aware that knowledge we presently possess is not changeless, absolute truth. Insight is revealed through the practice of compassionate listening, deep looking, and letting go of notions rather than through the accumulation of intellectual knowledge. Truth is found in life, and we will observe life within and around us in every moment, ready to learn throughout our lives. This is the second mindfulness training of the Order of Interbeing. Have you made an effort to study, practice, and observe it during the past month? The third mindfulness training, freedom of thought, aware of the suffering brought about when we impose our views on others. We are determined not to force others, even our children, by any means whatsoever, such as authority, threat, money, propaganda, or indoctrination, to adopt our views. We are committed to respecting the right of others to be different, to choose what to believe and how to decide. We will, however, learn to help others, let go of and transform fanaticism and narrowness through loving speech and compassionate dialogue. This is the third mindfulness training of the Order of Interbeing. Have you made an effort to study, practice, and observe it during the past month? The fourth mindfulness training, awareness of suffering. Aware that looking deeply at the nature of suffering can help us develop understanding and compassion, we are determined to come home to ourselves, to recognize, accept, embrace, and listen to suffering with the energy of mindfulness. We will do our best not to run away from our suffering or cover it up through consumption, but practice conscious breathing and walking to look deeply into the roots of our suffering. We know we can realize the path leading to the transformation of suffering only when we understand deeply the roots of suffering. Once we have understood our own suffering, we will be able to understand the suffering of others. We are committed to finding ways, including personal contact and using the telephone, electronic, audiovisual, and other means, to be with those who suffer, so we can help them transform their suffering into compassion, peace, and joy. This is the fourth mindfulness training of the Order of Interbeing. Have you made an effort to study, practice, and observe it during the past month? The fifth mindfulness training, compassionate, healthy living. Aware that true happiness is rooted in peace, solidity, freedom, and compassion, we are determined not to accumulate wealth while millions are hungry and dying, nor to take as the aim of our life fame, power, wealth, or sensual pleasure, which can bring much suffering and despair. We will practice looking deeply into how we nourish our body and mind with edible foods, sense impressions, volition, and consciousness. We are committed not to gamble or to use alcohol, drugs, or any other products which bring toxins into our own body or our collective body and consciousness, such as certain websites, electronic games, music, TV programs, films, magazines, books, and conversations. We will consume in a way that preserves compassion, well-being, and joy in our bodies and consciousness, and in the collective body and consciousness of our families, our societies, and the health and the earth. This is the fifth mindfulness training of the Order of Interbeing. Have you made an effort to study, practice, and observe it during the past month? The sixth mindfulness training, taking care of anger. Aware that anger blocks communication and creates suffering, we are committed to taking care of the energy of anger when it arises and to recognizing and transforming the seeds of anger that lie deep in our consciousness. When anger manifests, we are determined not to do or say anything, but to practice mindful breathing or mindful walking to acknowledge, embrace, and look deeply into our anger. We know that the roots of anger are not outside of ourselves, but can be found in our wrong perceptions and lack of understanding of the suffering in ourselves and others. By contemplating impermanence, we will be able to look with the eyes of compassion at ourselves and at those we think are the cause of our anger, and to recognize the preciousness of our relationships. We will practice right diligence in order to nourish our capacity of understanding, love, joy, and inclusiveness, gradually transforming our anger, violence, and fear, and helping others to do the same. This is the 6th mindfulness training of the Order of Interbeing. Have you made an effort to study, practice, and observe it during the past month? The 7th mindfulness training, dwelling happily in the present moment. Aware that life is available only in the present moment, we are committed to training ourselves to live deeply each moment of daily life. We will try not to lose ourselves in dispersion or be carried away by regrets about the past, worries about the future, or craving, anger, or jealousy in the present. We will practice mindful breathing, be aware of what is happening in the here and the now. We're determined to learn the art of mindful living by touching the wondrous, refreshing, and healing elements that are inside and around us in all situations. In this way, we will be able to cultivate seeds of joy, peace, love, and understanding in ourselves, thus facilitating the work of transformation and healing in our consciousness. We are aware that real happiness depends primarily on our mental attitude and not on external conditions, and that we can live happily in the present moment simply by remembering that we already have more than enough conditions to be happy. This is the 7th mindfulness training of the Order of Interbeing. Have you made an effort to study, practice, and observe it during the past month? The 8th mindfulness training, true community and communication. Aware that lack of communication always brings separation and suffering, we are committed to training ourselves in the practice of listening and loving speech. Knowing that true community is rooted in inclusiveness and the concrete practice of the harmony of views, thinking, and speech. We will share understanding and experiences with members in our community in order to arrive at collective insight. We are determined to learn to listen deeply without judging or reacting, and refrain from uttering words that can create discord or cause the community to break. Whenever difficulties arise, we will remain in our Sangha and practice looking deeply into ourselves and others to recognize all the causes and conditions, including our own habit energies that have brought about the difficulties. We will take responsibility for all the ways we may have contributed to the conflict and keep communication open. We will not behave as a victim, but be active in finding ways to reconcile and resolve all conflicts, however small. This is the 8th mindfulness training of the order of being. Have you made an effort to study, practice, and observe it during the past month? The 9th mindfulness training, truthful and loving speech. Aware that words can create happiness or suffering, we are committed to speaking truthfully, lovingly, and constructively. We will use only words that inspire joy, confidence, and hope, as well as promote reconciliation and peace in ourselves and among other people. We will speak and listen in a way that can help ourselves and others to transform suffering and see the way out of difficult situations. We are determined not to say untruthful things for the sake of personal interest or to impress people, or to utter words that might cause division or hatred. We will protect the happiness and harmony of our Sangha by refraining from speaking about the faults of other persons in their absence, and always ask ourselves whether our perceptions are correct. We will speak only with the intention to understand and help transform the situation. We will not spread rumors, nor criticize or condemn things of which we are not sure. And we will do our best to speak out about situations of injustice, even when doing so may make difficulties for us or threaten our safety. This is the 9th mindfulness training of the Order of Interbeing. Have you made an effort to study, practice, and observe it during the past month? The 10th mindfulness training, protecting and nourishing the Sangha. Aware that the essence and aim of a Sangha is the practice of understanding and compassion. We are determined not to use the Buddhist community for personal power or profit, or transform our community into a political instrument. As members of a spiritual community, we should nonetheless take a clear stand against oppression and injustice. We should strive to change the situation without taking sides in a conflict. We are committed to learning to look with the eyes of interbeing and to see ourselves and others as cells in one Sangha body. As a true cell in the Sangha body, generating mindfulness concentration, and insight to nourish ourselves and the whole community, each of us is at the same time a cell in the Buddha body. We will actively build brotherhood and sisterhood, flow as a river, and practice to develop the three real powers: understanding, love, and cutting through afflictions to realize collective awakening. This is the 10th mindfulness training of into being. Have you made an effort to study, practice, and observe it during the past month? The 11th mindfulness training, right livelihood. Aware that great violence and injustice have been done to our environment and society, we are committed not to live with a vocation that is harmful to humans and nature. We will do our best to select a livelihood that contributes to the well-being of all species on Earth and helps realize the ideal of understanding and compassion. Aware of economic, political, and social realities around the world, our relationship with the ecosystem, we are determined to behave responsibly as consumers and as citizens. We will not invest in or purchase from companies that contribute to the depletion of natural resources, harm the earth, or deprive others of their chance to live. This is the 11th mindfulness training of the Order of Interbeing. Have you made an effort to study, practice, and observe it during the past month? The 12th mindfulness training, reverence for life. Aware that much suffering is caused by war and conflict, we're determined to cultivate nonviolence, compassion, and the insight of interbeing in our daily lives and promote peace education, mindful mediation, and reconciliation within families, communities, ethnic and religious groups, nations, and in the world. We are committed not to kill and not to let others kill. We will not support any act of killing in the world in our thinking or in our way of life. We will diligently practice deep looking with our Sangha to discover better ways to protect life, prevent war, and build peace. This is the 12th mindfulness training of the Order of Interbeing. Have you made an effort to study, practice, and observe it during the past month? The 13th mindfulness training, generosity. Aware of the suffering caused by exploitation, social injustice, stealing, and oppression, we are committed to cultivating generosity in our way of thinking, speaking, and acting. We will practice loving kindness by working for the happiness of people, animals, plants, and minerals, and sharing our time, energy, and material resources with those who are in need. We are determined not to steal and not to possess anything that should belong to others. We will respect the property of others, but will try to prevent others from profiting from human suffering or the suffering of other beings. This is the 13th mindfulness training of the Order of Interbeing. Have you made an effort to study, practice, and observe it during the past month? The 14th mindfulness training, True Love. This is for lay members as opposed to monastics. Aware that sexual desire is not love, and that sexual relations motivated by craving cannot dissipate the feeling of loneliness, but will create more suffering, frustration, and isolation, we're determined not to engage in sexual relations without mutual understanding, love, and a deep long-term commitment made known to our family and friends. Seeing that body and mind are not separate from each other, we are committed to learning appropriate ways to take care of our sexual energy and to cultivating loving kindness, compassion, joy, and inclusiveness for our own happiness and the happiness of others. We must be aware of future suffering that may be caused by sexual relations. We know that to preserve the happiness of ourselves and others, we must respect the rights and commitments of ourselves and others. We will do everything in our power to protect children from sexual abuse and to protect couples and families from being broken by sexual misconduct. We will treat our bodies with compassion and respect. We are determined to look deeply into the 4 nutriments and learn ways to preserve and channel our vital energies, sexual, breath, spirit, for the realization of our Bodhisattva ideal. We will be fully aware of the responsibility of bringing new lives into the world and will regularly meditate upon their future environment. This is the 14th mindfulness training of the Order of Interbeing. Have you made an effort to study, practice, and observe it during the past month? So, sisters and brothers, we have recited the 14 mindfulness trainings of the Order of Interbeing. And I thank everyone so we shared it serenely. But every time we share something like this, we also share the merit we always get benefit from hearing and contemplating and meditating on these sort of practices and mindfulness trainings. So we always share that merit out. So I'll just recite 4 lines. Reciting the trainings, practicing the way of awareness gives rise to benefits without limits. We vow to share the fruits with all beings. We vow to offer tribute to parents, teachers, friends, and numerous beings who give guidance and support along the path. So friends, this is a time where we've been sitting quite a long time. And after this, we thought we'll be nice to do a practice. It's a practice that is suggested in the 14 trainings. That sometimes come back to our breath, sometimes we come back to our steps. And Tina, who facilitates the Sangha in Central Delhi, has very kindly offered to lead that practice. So I will bow out and let Tina bow in, and then we will hear from Indra after that. So if whoever's doing the tech and highlight or spotlight Tina, thank you.
Thank you, Shanta. Yeah. So,
are you muted?
No,
we can't hear you. Your voice.
Can you hear me now?
It's a little soft.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, but soft.
Oh, soft, huh? Oh, okay.
All right, it may be mine. Okay, sorry. Okay, that's fine.
Raka, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, so I'd just like to say I'd like to start the walking meditation with a song, which we can also use as part of the practice. So in case you know it, please sing along. It's called I Have Arrived. It's a song or a gatha from this practice. So it goes like this. I have arrived. I am home in the here and in the now. I have arrived. I am home in the here and in the now. I am solid. I am free. I am solid. I am free. In the ultimate I dwell. In the ultimate I dwell. So the walking meditation, the practice of walking. As we know, we walk all the time, but very often we don't even know that we are walking. So the practice of walking meditation is to remind us that we are here, present now, and we are walking. And it helps us also to bring us back to the joyfulness of walking. The art of learning this practice is to bring our presence into our walking without needing to arrive, without needing to have a destination. We have to remember that while we are walking, or try, especially when we are practicing, that we have nowhere to go and nothing to do. So really to just bring ourselves into the present moment through our walking as much as possible. And more than anything, we have to bring the joy and the pleasure of walking back to our steps. So this practice is about taking every step in full awareness and trying as much as possible to keep our breath in harmony with our steps. So I'll just briefly explain the practice for those who are new to it or relatively new. And then we'll do it together in the space, in whatever space we are in, for a few minutes, and till I invite the bell, and then we'll come back to where we started from. So when we do the practice, just become aware of your in breath and your out breath. So as you're walking deeply, feel the physical presence of your breath in your body. Breathe in and breathe out. And feel this breath going right through your body, from the top of your head right down to your toes. And while we walk slowly, when we are practicing and learning the practice, don't do it with any rush, and pay attention with every step that you are making. Pay attention to every step that you make. And always remember, when we are practicing, we have nowhere to go and nothing to do. So leave all our projects, all our thoughts as much as possible, and come back, keep coming back to your breath and your steps. We can become aware of the number of steps we make with each breath. So when we breathe in, we may be aware that we are making 2 steps perhaps when we are walking very slowly. And when we breathe out, perhaps 2 or 3 steps. So again, your steps and your breath, if you can bring them both in harmony and be aware of that, that's one way in which you can do the walking, so that you keep coming back to your breath and your steps. And the other way is using words, like the words from the gatha we just sung together, the song we just sung together. So you can say with your in breath, arrived, and perhaps if you take 2 steps, arrived, arrived. And with your out breath, you can say home, 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 if you're taking 3 steps, or here, here, now, now, now. So, so just to keep that in mind with our walking, and we'll do it together. So we can all stand up together and practice in the spaces where we are. So thank you, dear friends. If we can just bow to each other once in the practice together. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, dear Tina. It's always wonderful to arrive home and to be reminded of the practice to arrive in every moment and with each step and helping our breath to facilitate that. And it's amazing how it can release tensions of a day just with a few steps and a few breaths. So I think what Thai's always said, and I think it's true in this case, is that this is the hallmark of his practice, is the walking meditation. And if we can do this every day, even for a few minutes, and anyway, when we get up in bed, from bed to going to the toilet, or when we're going to our car or workplace, it's a wonderful practice. So thanks so much, Tina, and thank you for guiding us through that. We were sharing about the 14 trainings, but of course, what I was sharing was a bit of the history and then a little bit of the context of how they came about. And then, of course, the wording that was put together. And it's a work in progress. When 1966, they were slightly different, and these were developed in 2012 as a collective enterprise, not just by Thai, but by many people who had become members of the Order of Interbeing. But Indra, who's an aspirant of the Order of Interbeing and also facilitates the Gurgaon Sangha, was going to share a little bit about the first one. She's a lawyer by profession, and so it's a difficult one to not have strong views and take sides. So I was quite interested in hearing from Indra how she might manage. So I don't know if you could highlight or spotlight Indra, Uni Nair.
Thank you, Shantam. Good evening, dear friends, dear Sangha. I will just read the first one to recap it. Shantam's already taken us through them. And then I would like to share a recent experience of mine and how the first one has helped me shift the way I look at the cases that I deal with. So the first mindfulness training was openness. And it says, aware of the suffering created by fanaticism and intolerance, we are determined not to be idolatrous about or bound to any doctrine, theory, or ideology, even Buddhist ones. We are committed to see the Buddhist teachings as guiding means that help us develop our understanding and compassion. They are not doctrines to fight, kill, or die for. We understand that fanaticism in its many forms is the result of perceiving things in a dualistic and discriminative manner. We will train ourselves to look at everything with openness and the insight of interbeing in order to transform dogmatism and violence in ourselves and in the world. So I would like to share today a recent experience of mine with a fire in a juggi in a place called Sanjay Colony, Okhla. So it was the 7th of February, 2021. And some of you might have read in the papers that there was a mysterious fire 2:15 in the morning. It was a Sunday morning when the courts are closed and offices are closed as well. And the entire Juggi Basti got burnt. There were about 60 families huddled in tents or tiny cramped brick structures. A few of them had managed to construct them as well. They just about managed to escape and save themselves. Luckily, there were no casualties. A juggi is a place where the poor live and from where they often work as well. In this particular one, they worked with what is called katran. It's cut cloth pieces, and they make a livelihood out of these. Uh, many of them, many of Jhuggi dwellers, work in our homes and factories, domestic workers, they're rickshaw pliers, street vendors, etc. And Jhuggis come up because our government is unable to provide shelter to the poor. There simply isn't enough housing to go around. Jhuggi dwellers are protected from removal from their homes. In law, they're the urban poor and they have the right to shelter. So it's a right that is guaranteed by the state and they simply cannot be removed or evicted from where they live. Cut back to 2019, 2 years ago, these Jhuggi dwellers had heard that they were going to be thrown out of their Jhuggis in a few days. That is the way they're treated, just like pieces of scrap. As I've represented other Jhuggi dwellers in the past, some of them came and met me and also informed me of their misgivings. I asked them to audio or video record any conversation or action that might be taken against them, and we began to prepare our case to file in the Delhi High Court. Soon enough, within a few days, a DDA official came by and told the Jhuggi dwellers to quietly scram, to just leave or else face the consequences of being thrown out. He had a few of his henchmen with him to frighten them. My clients, the Jhuggi dwellers, were given just 24 hours to vacate. We placed that video, its transcript, and some still shots on the record, and based on extensive arguments and presentation of facts, we finally, after a great struggle, got a stay order against their unlawful removal. The law protects Jhuggi dwellers, it gives them the right to shelter, but the landowning agency, the DDA, claimed that they simply did not exist. They said that there were no Jhuggis there at all. So a person was appointed as an independent reporter called a local commission, but she was a rich woman who saw our clients as encroachers and violators of the law rather than as poor people struggling to eke out a livelihood. We challenged that report too. Our order of stay continued, but it was a hard won battle. That too, only a temporary win. When the lockdown happened, my clients called me and informed me that they were all right. But now, this. They were wiped out completely and the struggle would start all over again. When we went to see them on the 8th of Feb, which was a Monday, we saw the terrible state they were in. Their entire life's meager savings gone, just like that. They were surrounded by the debris from the fire and the threat of being removed by the municipality. Some of them were suffering from trauma. They just looked like they were in a daze. I and my colleagues spent 2 hours with them, just listening to them and hearing them out, offering to do whatever we could do to help them. I think our presence appeared to give them some hope and to relieve them of some of their anxiety for the time being. While we were there, inevitably, as things happen when you arrive at the scene, so to speak, the municipal officials suddenly decided to pay a visit to their place and walked past, wagging their fingers and shaking their heads, saying they must all be removed. They would not look at these people. They just went past them as if they did not exist in their eyes, as if they did not need to be spoken to at all. Luckily, we happened to be there. So I went up to them, introduced myself, spoke to them, and informed them calmly about our stay order. The municipality had not been a party in our case as the land was under the Delhi Development Authority, which is the DDA. I also requested them politely for their mobile numbers so that I could send them the order via WhatsApp and sought their support as well to take a pause and not remove my clients from that place. They were non-committal at the time and said they will consider. I came back home and reflected on what had happened. I too was suffering from the trauma of seeing what they had undergone, my clients. Earlier, I would have been filled with rage. I would have felt justified in being angry with these officials. They would have been our marked enemies. The state that was exercising its brutal might on the vulnerable poor. We would have taken sides, opposing sides, and our positions would have hardened. I would have written scathing notices to the municipality and to the Delhi police, whose officials were already harassing these Jhuggi dwellers. Now something has shifted in me. I could see the plight of my clients, the Jhuggi dwellers, but I could also see how the municipal officials had equally lost something: the luster in their eyes, their sense of humanity. I could see them with eyes of compassion, and also how they had lost so much to become what they were today, and that they were probably turning away from their own fears and what could very well have been their own reality, a life of grinding poverty. Maybe we all turn away to play our roles of the rescuer, the rescued, and the oppressor, to turn away from our own suffering. I could also see that this might be their own way of protecting themselves from what they see day after day after day. Maybe they also feel they need to be the way they are to be able to do what they think is their job. Maybe that is the reason that they do not even see the poor as humans. They see them as sanitation projects or pieces of scrap. I could see how our system crushes these people to become insular, unfeeling instruments of the state. I did not see them as the fault any longer, but the inevitable outcome of the bruising system which we are all a part of. I also see how I or any of us could so easily become like these municipal officials, and how we are quite similar in so many ways, helpless and trying to do what we can in the way that we know best. The MCB officials, after initially insisting that our clients leave within a day or two, did not remove them. And so our next project now begins to get the debris removed. We've written several representations to the Chief Minister. As the chairperson of the Delhi Urban Shelter Improvement Board, it's called DUSIB, and we've mobilized the people locally to get help from him. We asked the Jhuggi dwellers to go and meet him through their local MLA as well. We spoke to the local MLA as well to inform him of his rights as a member of the DUSIB, and to appeal to the Chief Minister, who is the chairperson of that very authority. I understand that our clients have gone and met them with our representation, and they have also got some orders for their rehabilitation. So the practice has helped me to try and understand people and work with them rather than against them. Lesser battles in court and more of working collaboratively with officials. And when in court, we also ask for training and sensitization than punishment. And so our journey continues. So thank you for listening.
Thank you, dear Indiraji. It's for me, this was what in a way, the charter that Thich Nhat Hanh set up in 1966 is about. It's about how the main aim was how to make the Buddha Dhamma relevant to our times, and to develop, to have an aspiration, a sort of bodhisattva aspiration where you can help others through developing compassion, and also to transform one's own habit energies in order to transform society by building understanding. So the way that I think Indra managed to deal with her own habit energy, and then, we don't know what aspect hit the officials or touched the officials, or they saw a mirror, of their own in the Jhuggi dwellers. And I think this is what the aspiration or the aim of Thai was. And it's interesting because when they developed the charter of the Order of Interbeing, which was done, as I said, 55 years ago today, there were 4 principles of that. And the first, of course, as we have heard, is the openness and the non-attachment to views. Very hard, because we see injustice, or we want to take a side. It's very much hardwired into us. But to be able not to, and to really not to be caught in any sort of dogma or prejudice or habits, what we consider the truth. So I think the first aim of non-attachment is a non-attachment to views. Stuff. And that's even when the Buddha does his Eightfold Path, he talks about right view. The right view is very much about non-attachment to a particular view, and especially the view of me and mine and I. And the second principle of the charter, which was developed, was the direct realization of the nature of interdependent origination, or through mindfulness meditation. I think this is a key, and I feel with our education system, everything, if we can see that nature of interbeing, the interdependent origination, this is because that is, this is not because that is not, this I think would be a fundamental shift in our consciousness to create peace in the world. And if we don't other somebody or some other nation or some other community or some other caste, then we start seeing that their suffering is our suffering. And this develops with that practice of concentration, of looking more deeply and realizing that truth of interbeing. And that happens through mindfulness meditation. In fact, we're now in the middle of these 60 days of practice of the blooming of a lotus. And many of the practices help us to look more deeply into the interdependence. And so those of us who are here, if you'd like to join, every morning between 7:30 to 8 in the morning, we have a sitting practice. That's Indian time. And then there are 2 other principles of the charter, but they are to do with how they're more like how to act, the guides for action in society. And one is appropriateness, making it relevant to the Buddha's teachings and relevant to the people being taught. It doesn't always have to be words, like Indra's instance was just her way of being with them. When Tina was sharing about walking, even bringing a calm to yourself through the walking in a very, very difficult situation where you're confronting injustice. That is how these are guides for action. So that appropriateness is very important. And to bring that understanding and compassion, which reflects the needs of people and the realities of society. And the 4th aim is what we call skillful means. And that can refer to the language, the images, the methods, the practices used by an intelligent teacher or practitioner in these cases to show this way of transformation and guide people into a practice. So opening their own Dharma door. We talk about 84,000 Dharma doors, but we need to keep creating new ones. And these are the ways we do this. So the Order of Interbeing, which we are celebrating today with the 14 mindfulness trainings and the charter, doesn't consider a particular sutra or group of sutras as its basic structure. In fact, it says original Buddhism, Mahayana Buddhism, other are all relevant, and all Buddhist traditions actually have this openness and non-attachment to view embedded in it. But this Order of Interbeing is very much a vision of Thich Nhat Hanh, and so we honor him today in that way. He's not well. But when I sit under the Bodhi tree sometimes in Bodh Gaya, where I go every year. In fact, I'm thinking of organizing actually a pilgrimage for people who can't come because of COVID in October this year. So many of us can go and sit under the Bodhi tree maybe together that time. I look at the tree and I see different branches of the tree. And some are very thick branches, like Vietnamese Buddhism or Thai Buddhism, but sometimes they're smaller branches. And I feel that Thais set up a new branch of the Bodhi tree in the Bodhi tree called what we are now calling the plum village tradition. So that's probably enough for me. We've come probably to 6:30, which is the time we're supposed to, we suggested to close. And thank you for joining us for this evening. And we will again meet next month at this time on the Saturday. But we have local sanghas meeting in between. So this is the one where all of us come together. And if anybody would like to join the morning practice, you're very welcome. I'm going to invite the sound of the bell. And those of us who are on the Zoom, if you have time, please do stay on. We can have more of a sharing. And those friends who are on YouTube, we welcome you, and please continue the practice. Try and see what words from the 14 trainings, if anything, really felt absorbed in you. You can look it up on the Plum Village website. You can see the 14 mindfulness trainings, and also try and see if you can practice walking, trying to look at whatever habit energies, attachments we have, etc. So have a good evening or good morning if you're. I know somebody's joined in the middle of the night in New York, so please feel free to transition to the next moments in peace and calm, and with the sound of the 3 sounds of the bell as we bow out.